Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of the S&C podcast, everyone. I'm one of your hosts, Coach Carly, and we got Maddie Scar, our other host, joining us again. And we got another Maddie joining us all the way from Scotland at 9:15 in the evening. Maddie Deehan, the football body coach. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, all good. Thanks for having me, guys.
You're welcome, man. It's good to have you on. It's good to have another footballer on. We were just discussing before this, what do we call it, football or soccer? And there's only one word for it. It's not soccer. It definitely is football, especially considering you are the football body coach on Instagram. Tell us a little bit about your journey so far, Matt. I mean, we met through Uncommon Success, which was epic. Like, I remember waking up. It's kind of like the roles reversed this time. I was up, I think, 3:30 in the morning the first time we chat, and it was it was a beautiful morning for you. I can't remember. It was actually later on in the afternoon. You looked fresh. Yeah. I was just like, oh my god, what's going on here? Now the roles are reversed. How did you get onto this path, mate? Like, I remember our conversation that we had a couple of months ago, and it's been really, really exciting to see your transformation over those couple of months. But for Maddie Scar, who hasn't really met you before, and for the viewers too, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about how you jumped onto this path.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, football was, like yourselves, been a part of my life for forever, really. So I've kind of always wanted to do something in sport, but I guess the whole high school journey, kind of mainstream education, deterred me a bit from that. I kind of went down a different path. I ended up studying chemical engineering at university, and a few years in, realised I didn't necessarily want to go down that path. So at that point, COVID hit, so it was just a kind of natural progression just to finish it. So over the last year, I guess, from finishing, it's just been a process of, I guess, figuring out, the path to take, really. It's been a bit tricky for me, to be honest. Been doing lots of different things, but certainly over the last 4 or 5 months, things have become a lot more clear. Particularly, I guess, getting involved with UNCOM, speaking to guys like you. Obviously Keegan and lots of the other guys in the community, and ATG as well, of course. It's just made things a lot clearer, and just opened up a lot of doors that I didn't necessarily know were there, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, it's been a good 4 or 5 months, I think, now, diving into things and trying lots of new things. And like I said, it's created a lot of new ideas in my head and paths to go down.
Yeah, so let's talk about what you're doing now, because you're working with some pretty high level players, and you have your project coming up. So fill us in a little bit on what you got going on.
Yeah, so I guess over the last, like I said, 3, 4, 5 months, getting going with just typical personal training, coaching, lent on friends and boys that I know, or like through friends and stuff like that. I guess I played at a reasonably high level myself. In my teens, played pro youth football in Scotland. So I guess the highest level you can play at that level, and was playing semi-professional over the last few seasons. So I've got a decent network, I guess, to lean on. So so just now, I guess I'm coaching. Just got 3 or 4 pro players, and that's been great. I think really the experience of coaching them just highlights a lot the need for a lot of the stuff that we've been, obviously the 3 of us have been coaching, or just like looking into with ATG and related stuff. I mean, a lot of the issues that guys are dealing with is just pretty extensive in terms of tightness, soreness, and obviously all the injuries. It's crazy.
With the ATG aspect of training, how did you jump onto it to be becoming an ATG coach? Was it something specifically that happened to you, or did you just see the benefit of it and then you were just like, wow, this is incredible?
Yeah, so I don't think it wasn't as drastic as both of your guys' stories. I know, obviously, it's pretty crazy. I think most of the guys in the community have some type of, pretty substantial, injury that they got through. For me, it wasn't. It was obviously that period of being off consistent football from COVID. When I got back to it, I think all these kind of niggly injuries, like I had like plantar fasciitis was kind of holding me back, and I think I stumbled across one of Ben's videos, and then I think another one of Keegan's videos, and then it just kind of took off from there. I guess it just went down the rabbit hole.
So let's talk a little bit about working with professional level and high level amateur players. What are you doing that they don't get from the typical strength coaches, and what kind of changes are you seeing in them?
I mean, first of all, to be honest, like in Scotland, in the UK, but particularly in Scotland, like it's kind of shocking that there's not really any kind of format to things in terms of strength training, particularly for like footballers. I mean, typically are not as athletic as American football players or rugby players or whatever. I mean, they're still athletic, of course, but I mean they can get away with it by skill. Here in Scotland, it's I guess people obviously understand its importance, but a lot of people reject it in terms of just they don't need it or whatever. So kind of first of all, I guess there's that, addressing that issue. But then the boys that are obviously have some type of format, it's just the getting over the problem of not wanting to do too much work for the lower body, thinking it's going to affect their performance and slow them down, all these kind of things. And I guess it's just trying to break down those barriers in terms of training in the gym. So I guess I'll probably say the exact same thing as guys that have been on here before in terms of what I do. I mean, it's really just the basics of ATG, just getting kind of dipping their feet in the water kind of thing. It's not not going too much too soon, but just like over the last few months, just hearing the feedback has been pretty reassuring. Particularly the boys, like I said, obviously I played semi-professional over the last few seasons, so training a lot of boys at that level and just hearing the feedback from them in terms of how they feel after games, after training, all these or before training. They don't need to do these like crazy warm-ups that they'd have to previously, and just I guess like all rounds, just how they feel. I mean, obviously football is important, but if you can have an impact past that as well, you're doing something right.
Yeah, it's awesome to see. Like, I mean, on the Instagram, the Football Body Coach, a lot of the players that are coming in, you can see that there's some transformations that are occurring, and it's like these little light bulb moments that are happening for them. Following on from the Football Body Coach, how did you get started with that? Because that was kind of like a bit of a shift for you, wasn't it? Like you knew that there was a market that you wanted to tap into, and then it was kind of like the guidance and assistance from Keegan's angle to be able to help you take those steps. How did you manage to take those steps? Like, what did you do? What was challenging for you to make the steps, or what are some of the challenges you've experienced as well?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it's, I knew there was something there, but I didn't necessarily know the path. It was very unclear. But like you said, speaking with Keegan did kind of make things a lot clearer, and not to say that it's extremely clear now, and it's just a simple path to walk down. Of course, there's still things that are cropping up, still things to work out. I'm sure you guys can say the same thing about what you guys have got going on as well. But yeah, I think the major thing has been really just figuring out, especially just like trying to convince people that this is at least something they should consider doing. Like I said, there's obviously that rejection of strength training over here or just in football. So it's like breaking that down a bit as well. And then also with footballers, in terms of the not doing too much lower body stuff. So it's just, I guess it's just trying to, supplement it into their training rather than, trying to go too hard.
So what take us through some of the objections you get from people when you try and get them on the lifting and they're not receptive to it, or what kind of things you go through and how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, whenever I get guys in, it's fine. It's just an issue of like getting them in terms of all the usual excuses. But yeah, it's once they're in, they seem to like it. There's good feedback. I'm about to take on like a couple local teams as well, like to do like more kind of group sessions. So it'll be interesting to hear or see the feedback and the results from that as well.
Tell us about your preparation then with the teams that you're taking on. So obviously there's a certain amount of preparation that you need to prepare beforehand. How are you going to take it on? Basically, there's you're always going to have different positions, different players, different injuries potentially, different issues. What are you going to do to be able to make, I guess, your life a little bit easier in terms of coaching so many players and teams?
Yeah, I guess that's again one of the probably main issues to resolve. I guess I'm still figuring a lot of things out. This is still again a new experience for me. Having coming out of university, doing something completely different, albeit it was engineering, so it was problem solving, which is essentially what a coach does, solves problems. So it's kind of nice in terms of that. I have trained that thought process, that skill, albeit it was in a different field. So yeah, I think really just trying to keep things as simple as possible. Really, I mean, I love the ATG stuff. I think it's great, but I think there's potentially something like maybe still missing there as well. I think Keegan is. I don't know if you guys listened to one of the recent voice notes I think he put in UNCOM in terms of like 5 things that you can dedicate an hour to a week. Like gymnastics, trampolining, stuff like that. It's like things that are almost like not even related to football, but I kind of see where he's what he's getting at there in terms of trying to find some sort of angle to come into that can kind of set you aside from everyone else, make you unique, because I guess everyone's kind of doing the same thing right now in terms of football, because I mean we can't just reduce football to being as simple as if you can do X, Y, and Z in the gym, then you're going to be better on the pitch. Yes, it will make a difference, but it's not as black and white as that. It's really like there's guys that don't even step foot in the gym, and they're great. But if they did, how much more of a difference does it make? It's just no one's really solved that yet. So I guess there's a lot of problems, and I guess you guys have probably tackled them as well in your heads. But I think there's still a lot of things for me to think about in terms of everything. But yeah, going back to your question, I guess for me it's just kind of keep things initially simple at the moment and get the biggest returns from that simplicity, and then from there you can kind of phase things in.
I think we could rename your channel to the trampoline football coach. You want to differentiate. That's one way to differentiate yourself. I don't know if it's the best idea, but it would be cool. So here's a bit of a loaded question, just to make it hard on you. If you were to pick 3 movements for footballers to generally across the board that's what they need, what would the 3 be?
ATG split squats, of course. Let's think of artists. Probably some type, probably like some type of knee-over-toe calf raise, obviously if that's seated, or just like the standards bent knee standing one. And then it's tough.
That was the point, yeah.
Maybe the Jefferson curl, something like that, just because hamstrings are and lower back is an issue for a lot of guys that I see anyway, or just guys, that kind of came across through the years. I think a lot of guys over here that still play at a good level have quite demanding jobs, like labor intensive jobs. So a lot of those guys obviously have really bad lower backs. So the Jefferson curl could potentially be a nice one to address that.
Speaking on the football front, one thing that I've really started to take time and delve into is like the strength and conditioning aspect of football, because now I think semi-pro and even amateur teams to a certain extent here in Australia are starting to take that step in understanding that strength and conditioning is a vital part of being able to assist their team into winning championships or keeping more players on the pitch. In your own personal opinion, do you think that, well, obviously it's been neglected, the strength component, but how do you think you can interact if you were a strength and conditioning coach, like for what you're doing, let's just say? How do you think you'd be able to get players for their buy-in to be able to get into the strength stuff? Like, all three of us know that the strength component is probably one of the biggest components that's missing from a footballer's life. We spend a whole heap of time on the balls. We spend a whole heap of time doing all this running, 2.2 Ks, 1 Ks times 5, longer runs, whatever else there is. I mean, down here, it was only just recently that they stopped doing like beach running, jetty to jetty running. Like for team stuff, it's a good team builder, but in terms of metrics and measuring for performance, it's like it doesn't really correlate at all. So in your own personal opinion, and Maddie, Maddie Deehan, I'll get you to go first. Maddie Scar, I want you to link in on this as well, but what do you think is the best way to be able to get strength into a footballer's life? Because it's all well and good to be able to do it outside of football, but let's just say in football, how do you think, or what do you think are the best steps to take to be able to get more of that strength aspect rather than just so much of that conditioning, that running, the jumping, the change of direction, the agility stuff? What do you think can be done?
Do you mean in terms of integrating it into their normal training, their normal football training?
So into actually training. So instead of going away, so like you're doing with a lot of pro players at the moment, they're coming to see you. Mm-hmm. How can you actually integrate that into football training, into a part of the training?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think in terms of, I see obviously the stuff that you do, Steph, in terms of the the training at your team, your old team, the old club. I think that's a great angle to come into in terms of things, rather than almost separating. I think just that simple barrier of just getting into the gym is a big issue that I see. You guys might say the same thing, guys. It's until you make it a part of your life, until you decide that you go to the gym or you work out, that it's still going to be hard to make that part of your life. Initially, I think, yes, just doing a lot of the bodyweight stuff could be a nice angle to get into. Getting minimal equipment, even for your house, is also another great thing to do. Rather than just saying you have to go to the gym and do 3, 4, 5 workouts a week or however many it is. But yeah, I think in terms of the stuff that you do, at the club, and integrating it in with training, it doesn't need to take long. It can be like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then you've still got another hour after it to work on other stuff. There's definitely a lot of things as well I'd say about team training from my experience anyway, like a lot of the technical drills that are done, you can just substitute some of that stuff for, some of the strength conditioning stuff. And really just bodyweight stuff is a great way to start, obviously with, ATG 0. Like really, if you ran through that, a few rounds of that at the start of every training session, injury rates would go down 100%.
Yeah, so I thought about this quite a bit a few months back. So I was talking to one of the head coaches for a college team here, and they wanted to implement ATG somewhere into their program, but they didn't spend time in the gym. So like they didn't really lift. And first of all, I said, well, that's your problem. Like you get in the gym first of all, but they wanted to integrate it into practice because they were big on letting their players have time outside and not being at training 24/7. So I like putting it in the warm up. I think the best way to do it if you don't have a whole bunch of equipment is the warm up. And so when I was playing, I did 0 before every game, every training, everything, because I was still pretty messed up at that point. But like I had to do 0 before I could do the team warm up. And like it got easier and easier as I went on because I was doing it every day. But I really like it as part of the warm up. I think there's some things that you can do beyond 0 that are really cool that you probably put towards the end of the warm up. But like you could just get big bands aren't expensive, and doing like the partner forward backwards like band sled drags, however you want to call them. Like two people are looped in and one person's going backwards and the other is resisting. That's a really great way. Basically no equipment. That's going to be super helpful for anybody that has knee, foot problems. Another cool thing besides like obviously doing the split squat, step ups, tib raises on the wall, KOT calf, FHL calf. Awesome. Do all of that. Like it was my warm up for a long time. I really like adding so the spring ankle isometric holds from Cal Dietz. I think that's a really cool thing you can do because you don't need the equipment, but you can add load using a partner. So one of the ways, so like you can get up to 60-second holds on one leg at a time, and then start having somebody push on your shoulders when you're doing it, and then push harder and harder. And by the end, you can do 15-second holds, but somebody's like violently like pushing and releasing and pushing and not like shaking them side to side, but like that is pretty close to being representative of like the force when you're hitting the ground. Somebody pushing really hard and then like letting go and having to hold those different positions. I think that's really valuable for people's ankles and even their knees. The strength of your feet, and you could do it without cleats, with cleats, boots. Sorry, but I think I really like that. So if I had to say 3 things. Well, I'll say 4 things. First, you should get in the gym still. But the other 3 would be add in some sort of sled drags, whether you can get a cheap sled or you can do bands, or Steph, you have some good partner ones that you can do even without any equipment. I like the spring ankle exercises. I think those are awesome. And they scale to no weight and adding weight without equipment. And then all the 0 exercises are terrific.
Yeah. It's just interesting being able to actually, so like having done it with the young under 18s team, obviously the young kids, they have a little bit less tendency to be like, oh, what the hell is this? Like, I don't want to do. Whereas like if you're working with senior players, it's like, come on, man, I just come here to play soccer. Like I don't want to worry about this stuff. But as things are progressively getting more and more professional, I mean, here in Australia, they've only got the one league. One professional league being the A League, and they're looking at eventually in the next couple of years bringing in a B League. So it's like I was actually having a chat with someone the other day about the things that need to be done to be able to prepare the club for being able to be even considered to be part of the B League. And so it's things like having the metrics as to like what you've done previously, whether it's for mental well-being, physical well-being. Have you got all these measurements on players? On like, there's all this sort of stuff that needs to be done. It's like you need to be taking these steps now for 3 or 4 years' time for when they have the B League come about. With the the conditioning side of things, do you, Matty, Deehan, do you think that enough of it is done within the sport? Let's just say, we'll talk about pre-season for now because we've come to the end of our season here, moving into the season and doing pre-season. Do you think enough of it will be done in the training aspect with the coach and away from a warm-up or a strength and conditioning aspect? Or do you think there still needs to be something, and Matty Sky, you can chime in on this as well, do you think that there needs to be still some conditioning aspect done in, whether it's before the ball drills or within training as well? So Deehan first. the two Matties.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, of course, there has to be, really. I think, obviously, the last one there we said about bodyweight stuff and what Matt was getting on at there, like 100%, you need to get into the gym. Like, there's only so much I believe you can do bodyweight to prepare yourself. I think a couple of the other ATG coaches have said, I think one of the main ones, like Ben Clearfield, about using the tools really in the gym. Really, I don't think you need to go, in my opinion anyway, I don't think you need to go super hard with football in terms of the all the weight stuff. Like, I think you don't need much in terms of equipment wise. But yeah, I think that there's definitely something not right throughout like football just now in terms of strength conditioning. Speaking with a lot of athletes, I think particularly mid-season as well, doing a lot of extra, or the only thing that they're doing really is like plyometric stuff, and when you're training 4 or 5 times a week and got a game at the weekend, like mid-season, I don't really think you need to be doing any more plyometric stuff. Maybe like one extra session, maybe, but pre-season, yeah, of course. But yeah, I think it's almost like a fear thing. I think for a lot of guys, they don't want to, affect the performance. Whereas I think what kind of shifted my perception of things with ATG, and I thought all the main concepts in it as well, but the main thing that shifted my perspective was about building you up rather than breaking you down. I think in the gym I used to feel like I needed to like crush myself to have a decent workout, and then you had to have that like the pain, like no pain no gain type thing. The next day, you had to have the DOMs for 2 days in the legs, or it wasn't a good workout. But ATG, you have there's more dexterity to things. It's not just kill yourself on the leg extension or the leg press or whatever the exercise is. Using the concepts, short and long range, these types of things. If you really understand these concepts, then you're going to be much better off, and you're not going to get the same fatigue and soreness. And over time, give yourself even like a 12-week block or whatever after that, and that's maybe an off season plus a pre-season. If you can really dedicate yourself to that, then come the start of the season, your body will have adapted to that load, and then you can maintain it during the season. And I think that's where a lot of guys go wrong anyway, in terms of football anyway here as well, because they don't necessarily get a big time off. And the pro guys that I train here, they're not on like super high salaries, so they obviously they go away for a couple weeks, two weeks or whatever, and then they've only got like 5-6 weeks until the season starts, so they don't really have a big time to really knuckle down in the pre-season. So I think they're almost kind of shooting themselves in the foot in terms of preparation, because all the other sports have the time, the off-season time. I think the only one is maybe ice hockey that doesn't get that like big off-season, but all the other big sports have that off-season where they can work on weaknesses, whereas football doesn't really have that, and that's kind of where I think a lot of these injuries and issues come into play.
There's so many things going through my head right now, but
It usually is.
Yeah, there's a problem if there's not. Well, sometimes it doesn't seem like there's anything going through this head, but so the first thing that came to my mind when you're talking about conditioning is there's a reason I call myself a strength coach, not a strength and conditioning coach, because I think most people are wasting their time with it, with conditioning specifically. So a couple ideas from other people that are on top of mind for me is, so Louis Simmons and Westside, they talked a lot about GPP, so general physical preparedness. And that's just like your base level. That's not specific to anything, football, weightlifting, powerlifting, tennis, whatever. That's just being generally physically prepared to do something. So their model was build it up once and then never lose it. Like, just have it forever. Like, and I think that's a much, much better model than like, let's get you fit and then let's get you unfit and then let's try and get you fit again. Like, okay, how about we get you fit and then we just keep you fit? Like, it's an ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. What, I can't remember the other word is, but you get the point. So it's like, let's spend more time on strength and let's just do enough to keep you at the level. So that's what I did when I was playing. Like, we would do the fitness test and I consistently 1, 2, 3, somewhere in that top 3 I'd finish. And people ask me, hey, did you run? I was like, no, I didn't run at all this summer. Like, I didn't run once. So like, I played, like, I was on a team over the summer and I lifted, but I didn't run. Like, no. And they're like, what? I played this summer too. Why did you beat me so badly? Because I'm stronger than you. Like, every step I take at the same speed that you do is much easier for me. So I'm running at 75% and you're running at 85%. Like, that's why I can go 10% longer than you. No problem. And that was something Ben Patrick said too. It's like, you have, like, if you know that you're pound for pound stronger than another guy, you just have to work. You don't have to work as hard. It's the same thing as if you're significantly more technically skilled than somebody. Like, man, like, I'm going to have a horrible, horrible time trying to guard LeBron James in basketball. Not even just because of the size. Like, he's so much better technically, and he's going to have no problem. LeBron James was a bad example because of the size and the physical differences. But, like, maybe we'll say, like, Leo Messi. Like, I would have a horrible time trying to defend him, and I don't think he would have that much of a difficult time trying to defend me. Not because I'm bad at football, but, like, he's technically so much better than me that, like, he would be like just dancing around me and I would be so out of breath. And so there's a balance there between, when you're in a match, between, are you the strongest pound for pound person out there and are you technically better than other people out there? And I think those two things both trump how fast can you run a 5K? Like, how long can you run for? Like, what's your VO2 max? Like, those things are helpful. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't hate when people go running. I think it can be beneficial to have all those ground contacts if you go for a jog in your ankles. But, like, man, if you need to get in shape, like, just sled an extra time, like 3 times a week. Like, do 8 sled sessions instead of 5, or do 15. I don't care. Like, do as much as you want if you want to get in shape. And then play your sport. That's the best conditioning tool you've got, is playing. And if your body is healthy enough and protected enough, you can play more than you need to get in shape. Like, if, like, Ben Patrick needs to get in shape for basketball, like, bump him up to 3 or 4 times a week, and I guarantee, like, that's how he gets more in shape for basketball. So I get a little bit heated with the conditioning thing because first of all, I just hate running. Like, I don't enjoy it. It's not something that's for me. And I think there's so many better tools than that. And I made the mistake when I was young, like 5 miles every morning, like just to warm up, and then my body fell apart. So yeah, strength coach, not strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, it makes total sense though when you think about it from that angle though, because especially seeing as a footballer, you're spending so much time doing a lot of that running, that change of direction, that repetition in your sport. So why would you need to do more to be able to get better at what you're doing if you're not strong enough to be able to withstand all of that? It makes sense anyway. And I'm sure in our heads it makes sense too, because that's something that I know that's been lacking from semi-pro football here. I'm sure it's the same where you are as well, Maddie, and for both Maddies, I'm sure it's the same where you are. And it's like, how can we come from a different perspective to be able to help people understand that the strength is the most, or is probably, not probably, it is more important than the conditioning aspect. Like, I'm sure you have a look at professional teams, for example, and I'm sure they're still doing all their running, but as a professional team, you spend time in the gym, like, it's all about trying to get those metrics as high as you possibly can and perform as well as you can in all of those things, whether it's the running and the strength component. But for a semi-pro team, in my opinion, I think that strength is more important than the conditioning aspect, because the conditioning, in terms, let's talk about lowest hanging fruit. Matt, we always talk about it, like, or most bang for your buck. That is what is going to be more bang for your buck, in my opinion. And it's just interesting to hear your opinion as well. So,
yeah, and I want to be clear. I'm not saying that you can be fat and be strong and you're going to be fine.
Playing football, I don't know. I've seen some pretty big, good footballers.
This isn't baseball. Like,
that's the funny thing. There is, again, even maybe not, because in Scotland they've got like 4 senior leagues. They're not all professional, but there's 4 senior leagues, and then below that it's there's like the Highland that they split them up. It goes like regional after that. But even at like that, the 5th and 6th tier, they're still big guys. Like, generally they're like strikers, and they're technically, great. They're obviously good back in the day. They've got a great strike, but don't have much else going for them. But somehow they can still do it. Even they're carrying 10 kilos more than they should.
That's one thing. Like, there's some people that talk about, like, if your body just naturally carries that weight, like, that's what it's comfortable with, then, like, by all means, and not, okay, so if you're like 10 kilos overweight, then, like, probably it would help if you lost a little bit. But like, generally just being like, if I tried to bulk up to 225 and played, it would take me like 5 years to get comfortable at that weight. But there's people that are my height that are just naturally 225. So it's a game of, like, how do you naturally sit? Like, with how do you naturally carry weight? Like, if I put on 5 or 7 kilos, like, just upper body, I'd be falling over all the time. I'd be too top heavy. So how, like, putting on weight isn't a bad thing, but are you offsetting that with the increase in strength to be able to use it? And are you still doing the functions you need to be good at to, and so this is something that Westside used to talk about. Talk a lot about Westside today. They would get people crazy strong, but then they would, like, and they wouldn't. So if you imagine a thrower, like a shot putter, you get crazy, crazy strong over 12 weeks, but you didn't throw any shot put. And then you go out and you try and throw, and people would throw shorter. They'd be like, what the hell? Like, Louis, like, God, like, you ruined me. Is that I told you should throw the whole time, because you have so much extra mass and you're so much stronger that your body needs to understand how to use it. So then inevitably you throw for a while and it would come back and you go even further. But part of that is you can't not do the movements that you're trying to be good at and the technical things, because naturally you change your body, you're going to change your ability to perform actions.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I have a kind of similar story to that in terms of not doing the sport or whatever while you are getting stronger. Like, I actually stopped playing football when I left high school, and was like pretty super hard into powerlifting at the time. So I got up to like 225, like 100 kilos, and stopped playing football for 2 years. And then when I got back, it was like kind of relearning things, and obviously the weight shifted, but it was interesting. It was like took a good like year to 18 months to get properly back into things. But obviously got really, really strong, and then I couldn't really use it, because I wasn't playing football, and obviously I was overweight and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's interesting when we start to, like, and this is a whole nother topic which we can probably leave for another time, but we had that conversation with Zach, Maddie, about lifting like a bodybuilder, lifting or training like a bodybuilder, and or like an athlete and it's a bit of a rabbit hole that we can go down into. But we'll leave it there for today, Matty Deehan. I know it's almost 10 p.m. I mean, it's not the latest anyone's jumped on for us. We were talking about Luke Carter breaking into his, not breaking in, but getting into his shared study space at like 11:30 at night. Where can they find you? Where can all the listeners find you, Matt?
I guess the best place is probably Instagram. So just at the Football Body Coach. That's probably the best place.
Beautiful, beautiful. Matty Scar, where's everyone finding you?
Yeah, Score Performance, SKAAR Performance, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. There's a Twitter page now, so that's
how
where.
How you finding Twitter, Matt? It's a little bit different, isn't it?
I tend to forget about it is the problem. So not great. It's going all right. There's still some ideas on there. Where can everybody find you, Steph?
I'm at Coach Carly with the 3 eyes just on Instagram for now. Matthew, thanks for today. Matty Deehan, enjoy your sleep, mate. We'll catch up again soon. Thank you everyone for listening to the podcast, and we hope to see you, or we hope you jump on next week. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.